Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but as always, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes. We're going to give out a little shout out to some sponsors that I used as an athletic director. I strongly recommend that you use them too. So take a listen, then listen to our interview, and then go visit these sponsors. You're going to be glad that you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Gipper. Gipper is the official social media graphics solution for the podcast. And if you're not posting content to celebrate your teams and promote your athletes, you're really missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team will have you creating world-class content in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. That's Gipper.com. We also want to thank Huddle. Go to Huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just loved everything about the Huddle platform. Join the 8 million users. Go to huddle.com. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. My assistant athletic director got his master's from Ohio University's online program, just raves about it. He also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses during the actual program, so it's an added bonus. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA for more information. The Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We'd also like to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. They're also a great way to tell your school's unique history and share your proudest moments. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to say thanks to Snap Raise. Have you ever been disappointed with a fundraising effort or platform? Those days are over. Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. It works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day for things like scheduling, uploading rosters and scores, communicating with everybody in your program or everybody in your state. How about athletic clearance and eligibility? Who doesn't do that every day? Home Campus does all these things and more, does them better, and it does it faster. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's it, homecampus.com. We also want to say thank you to sidelineinteractive.com, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Find out more information. Sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already get feedback, but it's typically from a very small group of complainers. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And the information that comes back on that survey is tremendously valuable, especially when you're meeting with a frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board, because it includes feedback from everybody, not just that group of complainers. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going all the way out to Oregon, my home state, and we're going to be visiting with Cari Wood. Cari and I connected this past, I'm going to say spring, when I was out at the Oregon Athletic Directors Conference. She was there to help honor a mutual friend of ours who's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. But Cari's got a really, really cool background in athletics. She is the longtime athletic trainer at Redmond High School in Central Oregon, on a number of committees, both at the state and the national level. And by the time you listen to this, we're recording on June 19th, she will have been inducted into the National Athletic Trainers Hall of Fame. I believe the very first person from Oregon to be inducted into that Hall of Fame. So, Cari Wood, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you. I'm the second person from Oregon. Just to make sure people know, first woman. The first person from Oregon was 50 years ago, and he was the very first athletic trainer at Oregon State University. So it's been a while.
Oh my goodness. So, okay. So the first woman and the first person from Oregon in 50 years. That's
Yes,
pretty
yeah.
impressive.
Thank you.
Cari also has a connection to the world of athletic directors, and we're going to get to that later in the podcast. But Cari, thanks so much for coming on. Congratulations on 30 years as an athletic trainer in Oregon. We
Yep.
always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Maybe take us through your own, let's say, high school and college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Cari Wood story?
Well, thanks first for having me, Jake. I appreciate it. And yes, I have had a long career, but we'll talk about it. So I grew up in Enterprise, Oregon, which is up in the northeast corner of Oregon. It's a real small town. Played sports there, was a okay athlete. We were a small school, love sports though. My family has a big sports background. We just enjoy watching and being involved. But I wanted to go into the medical field. And so I had no idea what an athletic trainer was, because we're a small school, we didn't have anything like that. And in my careers class, I plug in what are your personality traits, and then it spits out a list of careers that would work for you. And athletic trainer popped out number one. I was like, oh, what's this? I like it. It says athletic in it. So I looked into that and thought, well, this is cool. I want to go into medicine, and maybe this is something I can do, sports medicine and work with athletes. And so I ended up at Eastern Washington University. And to be honest, I didn't even know that in athletic training, you had to go to a school that had an accredited program. And so I actually got lucky. And when I went to Eastern, I with the help of a couple counselors, found myself in the athletic training room talking to the head athletic trainer there and kind of telling him what I wanted to do. And the whole football team walked in and everybody was hustling and bustling. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do, work with athletes and do medicine. And so went from there. So I was at Eastern for a little over 4 years, because then I decided that with my athletic training, I wanted to work with secondary school aged athletes. And so I just thought, well, might as well get my ed degree while I'm here. So I stayed a little extra longer and got my ed degree and did my student teaching and started looking for a job in secondary schools.
I want to hear more about the athletic training experience at Eastern, but let's go back to Enterprise for a while. Now, I'm familiar, growing up in Oregon, and, I'm familiar with Enterprise, and I got my start in small towns too. How was that like growing up? Enterprise is by definition, it's a small town, Eastern Oregon. going to the school, were you involved in, all sports, just one sport? What are your memories of, those high school days?
Well, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think small towns are the best. And I had 47 kids in my class. And I like to tell my own students this. I was valedictorian, pretty proud of that. But then I tell them I had a 3.74 and they laugh that I was a valedictorian. But yeah, you pretty much are involved in everything when you're at a small town. Yeah, I played basketball and was a decent track athlete. Played or ran cross country my freshman year and then decided not to do that anymore. I'm more of a middle distance or middle sprinter type runner. And so I didn't like the long distance, but yeah, no, it was awesome. I loved it and we traveled really far. So I had a lot of bus time because we didn't have any towns real close to us, but no, I loved it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, that's great to hear. All right, let's talk athletic training. You had that moment, the football team's there. I'm going to guess it was in the gym or the field house, and there's equipment, there's hustle and bustle. What was that like, that first year as a student trainer? What sort of things were you doing? And, was it all, boy, this is great. I can't wait for the next challenge? Or were there any moments where you go, I don't know if this is for me?
You know, I loved it from day one. Like I said, it was exactly what I wanted to do, medicine, and combine that with athletes and it was my dream job. And so being a student, I was back when they had what they call the internship route. Now it has changed and it's more a curriculum, heavy based curriculum route. But again, I wouldn't change that because I got a lot of hands-on time and internship hours and got a lot of practice. But yeah, you get assigned to at least at Eastern, we got assigned to a different team every year, and you had a senior student and then a younger student that usually got assigned to the team, and you just helped out and did what you could, and you did a lot of studying in the downtime in the training room. So kind of like being an athlete, a collegiate athlete, we spent as much time as the athletes did in the area. So busy, busy.
All right, all right. We've had a number of trainers on. I shared that with you. Here's my first. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You've seen the
Great.
athletic training profession. Certainly grow and they make advances just like any other profession. Right now, 2024. Do we tape ankles? Do we tape everybody? Do we do ankle braces? What's your professional opinion on the taping or bracing ankles?
So this is for all the coaches out there, is that way? Here's my professional opinion. If it is a fresh injury, I prefer tape because you can mold it right to their skin, it's custom made for them, and then you can put a brace over that if you need the extra support. If it is a preventative thing, like I want my son to wear ankle braces every day or get taped every day, I'm going to say, sorry, you can get ankle braces. And why I think that is because typically if somebody's going to injure themselves, it's going to be when they're fatigued. So it's going to be toward the end of practice or game. So if it's just an ankle tape, it's going to get loose and not be as effective toward the end of the game or the practice. So it's not going to do as good of a job when you're more apt to get injured. So if it's preventative, I prefer ankle braces if that's what you want to do. And if it's an injury, then I will make you a custom cast for your foot. Does that help?
No, no, no. That helps.
Make sense?
And again, I remember the days, and again, I'm a little bit older than you, where everybody
Very.
got taped, and I just hated it, and I would not go into the trainer because I didn't want my ankles taped. I thought it slowed me down, and really, I think I maybe sprained an ankle, once in my high school, college career, and so I was never a fan of it. Obviously, if it's fresh injury. But again, I'm not a trainer either. So I always like to pick the brains of people who know that stuff. Um, one more story from your Eastern Washington days. I'm going to guess you had an opportunity to work with a variety of teams and athletes. Any experience from those days stick out for you as hey, I wasn't expecting this, but I did a good job, or just anything you'd like to share about that time?
Mm, we saw just everything you see is new when you're a student. And so that was fun to see a lot of new things. One thing I can remember that was textbook was we had an athlete rupture his spleen. And what one of the symptoms of a ruptured spleen is you get referred pain to your left shoulder. And it was a football player, and it was a receiver, and he went up for a pass and got hit right in the abdomen. And he came down and was complaining about his shoulder when we started evaluating him. And like, what? All of us are like, why is his shoulder hurt? Nothing hit his shoulder. We couldn't figure out. And luckily, our head athletic trainer was there, and he said, I think he has a spleen injury. And sure enough, he was in surgery that night. So that was just one of those, wow, that was really did exactly what the book said it was going to do, which doesn't happen very often because the body is weird. So everything, you never know what different things are going to happen. But yeah, so that was kind of an interesting situation. I do want to bring up, and I told you this at the athletic directors conference, that you had Suzanne Vick on, you have before, and she probably doesn't even remember me, but I was a freshman when she was a senior student athlete trainer. I think she was a senior, maybe a junior, and she was also a volleyball player. And she was my older student that I worked with the baseball team. And so I know she told a story about one of our pitchers that got beamed in the head from a batted ball and had to be air lifed out. And so that was an interesting experience as well, hearing about that and all that. But it was funny that I was like, that name sounds familiar. And so I looked her up and I was like, oh my gosh, that is Suzanne Vick from back in the Eastern Washington days.
Oh, wow, that is so cool. Suzanne's become a great friend of mine and a great friend of the show too. I'm going to let her know that.
Yeah, tell her I said
Yeah.
hi. She won't remember me probably, but
Oh, I don't know. I think she might, but for listeners, we're visiting today with Cari Wood, longtime athletic trainer at Redmond High School. That's in Redmond, Oregon. Also, by the time you're listening to this, a recent inductee into the National Athletic Trainers Hall of Fame. We're going to take our first break, but we're definitely coming back with some more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more, but I'm going to. Go to hometownticketing.com. Their team is going to show you how to set up and sell tickets online, not just for your athletic events, but for things like school plays and concerts, school dances, even graduation. And here's the best part. Every school gets assigned a dedicated client success manager that's going to provide you hands-on support every step of the way. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to gipper.com. If you are not creating social media posts for your student athletes, for your teams, you're really missing out on a great opportunity. Kids are on social media and they're going to be looking for that type of promotion that only Gipper can provide. Again, I like to say it's so easy, even I can do it. Gipper's used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college programs across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to gipper.com to get started. You're going to be glad that you did. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest is Cari Wood, longtime athletic trainer for Redmond High School. That's in Central Oregon. Cari, you just shared your experience at Eastern Washington University and their training program, and now, boom, you're at a school. Take us through that journey, those first few years, and then, where you see the athletic training program now at your high school as you step away after a 30-year career.
Well, my first job, I actually worked 1 year at Lake Oswego High School in the Portland area. Um, and loved it there, loved the staff, loved everybody that I worked with, but didn't like living in the city, being a small town girl. So I saw that Redmond, which was a lot smaller 30 years ago, had a opening as an athletic trainer, and it was the very first. They didn't have an athletic trainer; they'd never had one, and they just passed a bond and were in process of building a new athletic training facility and all that. And part of it was hiring an athletic trainer to go along with the room. So I was super excited about that, about starting a brand new program and running it how I want to and starting from scratch basically. So I worked really hard to get this position, and was so happy and moved over here, and then was able to just start from scratch and make it how I wanted. It's funny. I think everybody probably thinks this, but gosh, you look back 30 years ago and I think, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything. Yeah. You were just, and that's the thing with athletic trainers and working at secondary schools, you're the only athletic trainer there. And so when you're fresh out of college, it's kind of like, well, there you go. You're in charge of kids' lives. And so it's a little bit scary, but I made it through, and 30 years later, like I told you earlier, I just turned in my keys yesterday. I'm retiring from athletic training, and so it's been a great ride. It's weird though, because that whole facility is mine. I made it, I built it up, so it's going to be really hard to watch it change, but it's okay because we've got a great new guy in there that I'm super excited about, and he'll do a great job.
All right, that was going to be my next question. What was that facility, that training room like when you walked in 29 years ago compared to what it is now? What are some of the differences as far as, the room, modalities, staff, you name it? What was it like when you walked in 29 years ago?
Yeah, well, it wasn't finished when I was there, so I worked out of a closet the first year, but it was one of the best athletic training facilities in Oregon when I first was there 30 years ago. And now, like, we built a new school in Redmond, gosh, I don't know, 10 years ago, and I got to be involved in the designing of that athletic training facility. And gosh, I look at that one and it's like a dream room now, because mine's, smaller and older, and we've had some upgrades, but yeah, it's funny how now I wish I had a better, newer one, but it was pretty prime back in the day.
Um, as you helped the athletic program at Redmond grow and also in the state, because you're very active at the state level, um, what are some things that you think are critical from the athletic trainer standpoint? We'll get into the relationship with the AD in our next segment, but what are some things that you would consider to be best practices for an athletic trainer who might be listening?
I see a lot of the younger athletic trainers that um, appear to be uptight. Like, it's the best way. Nervous maybe is a better word for it. But I think I think athletic trainers need to be very flexible, forgiving, and have a sense of humor and understand that things change. People make their own decisions, about their own kids, especially if you're working in a secondary school environment. And you're not going to like everything that you're working with, but you learn to adapt and communicate. And just be friendly and try to be part of the team. And then being part, I guess what I've always told my coaches are, I'm here to win too. I want to win. So I'm here to help us win. So I'm not the bad guy here. I'm not, I'm not pulling kids off the field because I just think they should be off the field. I'm going to do everything I can to keep kids on the field so we can win. So, so I'd let coaches know if I'm pulling someone off, it's a important thing, something that's going to affect their life forever. If we don't pull them off the field, something really bad could happen. So otherwise, I'm here to support you. I'm here to make us successful. And so I think if athletic trainers remember that you just are part of the team, and I know we're gonna talk about later how to work with your AD, because there needs to be a lot of trust and support, because obviously in the medical aspects of things, the athletic trainer should have the final word. So you're here to support, but you're also here to work with your coach, but still make the right medical decisions for your athletes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One thing that my trainers were able to do in varying degrees was recruit and utilize student trainers at the high school level. Now, again, student trainer was their title. Certainly, that they're not certified, but what's your opinion on that? And how would an AD maybe go about trying to do that at their school, or excuse me, not an AD, an athletic trainer, an AT.
Um, I think they're great as long as they're used correctly. Obviously they're high school kids and they shouldn't be making any sort of medical decisions or doing any sort of medical treatments on our athletes. But I've had a student athletic trainer program since day one. I taught a class for a while and then that kind of fizzled, but it's great to have. I mean, secondary school kids should have every opportunity they can to explore every type of career they think they might enjoy. Because as you know, it's hard to go to college and just pick your career. So if a kiddo shows interest in the athletic training or sports medicine or really any kind of health care profession, I allow them to come and job shadow me, and they hang with me and watch and help, or side by side with me and help them watch and do things that they can, just minor first aid stuff, because they've taken their health class and have first aid skills. So I try to let them do first aid skills and things like that. But I think they get a good experience. And one of the fun things that we did for years is I took my kids on a field trip every year. And so I'd take about 8 to 12 kids and we'd go all around the Pacific Northwest and tour schools and different settings the athletic trainers work in. And we'd usually go to one type of either collegiate or professional game and meet the athletic trainer there and see the facilities. So no, I agree with having student athletic trainers in secondary schools as long as they're used correctly and can learn.
We're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, or just add you to their network, what's the best way that our listeners can get a hold of Cari Wood?
Probably email Cari.Wood, Cari.Wood at redmondschools.org.
And I think Cari's also on LinkedIn too. So,
I am not. I am, but I haven't been in a long time, and I'm currently locked out because I can't get back in. But hopefully
okay.
they're working on it.
All right. Wait, just use the
I'm
email then.
trying.
Yeah. Don't go to LinkedIn. Um, we're going to take another break, but when we come back, I'm going to have Cari share her perspective on how athletic trainers and athletic directors should and can collaborate to make for the best athletic experience for student athletes and coaches. So let's take that break, but we're coming back with more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to thank Huddle for their support of the podcast. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that let them coach our kids up to the highest level. Our athletes and our parents also loved Huddle too. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thank you to the Ohio University online master's degree in athletic administration. This is an affordable 20-month, totally online program that focuses exclusively on interscholastic athletics. When you finish, you're not only going to have your master's degree, you're also going to have completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses to go towards your RAA or your CAA. You're also going to be part of a nationwide network in athletic administration. To get started, all you have to do is go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We'd also like to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. They're also a great way to showcase your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast, you'll get yourself a nice discount. vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Cari, you and I were talking, and I shared with you that I was very fortunate during my career as an AD. I had some great athletic trainers, really, professional in every way you would imagine. And I was able to empower them to really have an active role in our athletic experience for the student athletes as well as the coaches. What are some things that you have seen as somebody at the top of their profession, a Hall of Famer,
Hmm.
that you think are keys for athletic directors to collaborate and work with their athletic trainers so that their student athletes and their coaches can have that same quality experience?
Well, being in one place for 30 years, I've worked with multiple athletic directors and they've all been great. But I've learned a little something from all of them, of course. One of the big things that I've realized is that athletic trainers and athletic directors have a lot of commonalities. We both are we're the only person in our position. So we're kind of on an island, we're not coaches, we're not parents, we're not, so um, to have that other person who understands what's going on, but someone that you can talk to and vent to is amazing. So it's so important if the athletic director and athletic trainer can build a relationship of trust, have each other's backs, communicate, meet on a regular basis. I mean, even when you're first starting, maybe meet with each other and kind of share your philosophies on kids. Share, the athletic trainer can share how they, what their kind of injury treatment philosophies are. Talk about how you communicate with parents because you're both having to communicate with parents often. But just as long as you're meeting on a regular basis, I found that the ADs that I worked with that we did have regular meetings, that was that one person that I could vent to about a crazy parent or an athlete who's, being a jerk or, all those things that a lot of times we can't vent to other people about. Does that make sense? So having that relationship of these two people that are kind of on an island in their profession and can, if they learn to work together and communicate and have each other's backs, it can be, an amazing professional relationship.
No, I love how you phrased that whole thing. The overall theme was communication, but you brought up two great points. Athletic directors are always saying, Nobody understands what we do. Nobody at the school understands what an athletic director does. Well, the exact same would be true for the trainer because they are,
Mhm.
as you said, the only people at the school that do that. Um, and I love how you mentioned, crazy parent. Parents can go crazy at times.
No.
Um, what was your? I don't want to poison the response here, and I'm pretty sure I know your answer, but I want you to share. What was your professional approach when you're talking with parents and you know kid suffers an injury in practice, twisted ankle, broken arm, whatever, or game, there's an injury. Okay, what were your instructions, I guess, prior to, maybe start of the season meetings and that type of thing, but also ongoing with the parent as far as allowing you to do your job to the best of your ability as an athletic trainer? Did I couch that with enough information there?
Yeah, and I guess when I want to circle back on that, having it, the athletic director can help build that relationship with the athletic trainer if they let them do their job how they know how. Um, so thank you for saying that because you really need to know that you have support from your athletic director, which will trickle down to your coaches, and know that you have full support and full autonomy to make medical decisions about your athletes. And so then that trickles down to the parents if they hear it from their coaches or from their athletic director that, oh, yes, that athletic trainer knows what they're doing. You need to listen to what they say. They have your child's best interest in mind. Then that will all trickle down and make the athletic trainer's job easier, therefore making the coaches and the athletic director's job easier because they're not going to get complaints or have problems with that. Did I answer your question?
Oh, no, no, very much.
Okay.
And we would have our start of season meetings. I would come in as the AD. I'd mention, just a couple things. Thanks for letting us have your kids. Here's my phone number. Then we'd come in with the athletic trainer, that, this is how, basically, this is how we roll. And it wasn't a confrontational thing. It was
Mhm.
information. Yeah. Hey, we're here to help you. These are some things that you can help us out with. And the biggest one, I guess, for us, or one of the biggest, was um, let us, this is my trainer talking, let us reach out to, in Tallahassee, Florida, it was Tallahassee Orthopedic, and make the appointment for your child. We will get you to the front of the line,
Mhm.
and you're going to be seen by someone who understands sports injuries and, sports return to play. We were trying to avoid that parent taking their kid to the general
Mhm.
practitioner who, very well meaning, would say, no activity for 6 weeks. And then
Yeah.
our hands are tied, we can't do anything. So that was something that we always tried to communicate was, hey, we love your kid, but, please let us do that. Is that, would you consider that a best practice?
Absolutely. I know my coaches and AD always would say, you see Cari first, and then she'll decide if you need to, be referred on to an orthopedist or whatever. But yeah, because we all know that standard response is 2 weeks. And so yeah, our hands are tied once we have that physician um, diagnosis and treatment. But yeah, so thank you for that. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to touch, going back to what you said, thank you for having your athletic trainers at your parent meetings because that's super important for parents to put a face to a name and know, and give that athletic trainer time to talk to the parents and let them know who they are and what they're there for and how they will communicate with them. So I'm not going to call you every time your kid has a bump or a bruise. I'm going to call you when they need to be referred, but trust me, I'm going to take care of it here for free for you. So thanks for bringing that up about the meetings and giving your athletic trainer time. And also um, having the athletic trainers at all the head coaches meetings is crucial as well. Just kind of go over things and policies and how can we help you and how can you help us type.
Oh
stuff
no,
too.
again, you learn because, in my case, I had great ADs to learn from, great coaches. Also, sometimes you make a mistake, you learn from that too. Um, we would give our trainer, and there's a reason for it. Our trainer was in charge, and again, this is Florida. We get a lot of lightning in Florida, year
Uh-huh.
round. Our trainer, we all had the lightning monitors, on our cell phones and all that, top to line equipment. But it was our trainer who made that call, if it was time to come in. She might have seen a flash that our detection system, hadn't sensed yet. And she would call practice. And we let our coaches know that, this is her decision. It is, not to be questioned at all. Same thing with, return to play. And, this kid is, stretching only, or this kid's, no pads, or whatever it was. But our trainer is the one to make those decisions. And our coaches did a great, great job with that. I can remember maybe once where I had to remind a coach, you know, this is how we roll. And if it happens again, we're going to be having a different conversation. So, and again, you made a great point. As a trainer, you want to win. You want to see the kids playing. You're not out there to coddle them, but you're also there to make sure they're safe. That's going to bring me to my next question. And you can say, Jake, I don't want to talk about that, or you can just knock me aside and say, this is what we do. In your career, your 30 plus years as an athletic trainer, you've seen, let's say, a change in thinking, a change in responding with regards to concussion protocol. Okay. So what are your thoughts on that as a professional athletic trainer? Are we doing a good job right now? Are we doing too much? Do we need, I'm teasing. Do we need to go back with, oh, you're okay, Billy, get back in there. Should we be doing more? What are your thoughts on the whole concussion return to play protocols?
Well, we're about the same age, so and you coach football. So I can remember when I first started, the protocol was a kid comes out with concussion symptoms. Well, if they go away in 10, 15 minutes, they can go back in. Just so, and now it's crazy. And what they've learned, in the last 10 years about concussions is more than we knew forever, so I like to, it's not our dad's concussion anymore. It's not how we treated our parents and our grandparents. It's a new type treatment with new information. And that's one of the things that I say to my coaches, and they understand, is that a lot of times, it's not fun when a kid comes and just says one thing to you, one symptom, and you got to pull them, and it's like, I'm sorry, I know, but I've got to follow the standard. And this is, in Oregon, it's a state law, and a lot of states it is, it's a state law that, I'm sorry, my hands are tied. Please don't be upset with me. And, same with the lightning thing. We don't want to go out there and pull your practice off the field either. We want you to have your practice time. So please, let's not take it personal. I'm not trying to sabotage. I've just got to look out for this kid's brain. And a lot of times I say to kids, you only have one brain. If it was your ankle, I could push you and make you get back in there when it was still hurting. And, we could play through this, but you only have one brain. So we got to take care of that and make sure that, you're fine before we get you back in.
In your time as an athletic director, excuse me, as an athletic trainer at Redmond, um, can you share an instance where, here's the situation, and you're responding to it. The coaches are there, the AD is there, facility staff is there, that everything worked the way it was supposed to, in part because of that communication and collaboration that had been put into place. Can you share? I like to call them success stories.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. What we do primarily at our football games, just because it's a big setting, most people, we have what we call a pregame medical timeout. And so I meet with the AD, the officials, the clock runner, the guy with the mic up in the booth, the event staff, but just all the people that are working, our admin, our SRO officer that's at the game. And we go over our emergency procedures. Okay, if this happens, you're in charge of this. If we need to call an ambulance, you're in charge of opening this gate to let him in. But, we go over all the situations that could happen in case of emergency. And I remember it was funny because we started doing that, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And well, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And we had a really bad displaced fracture of a visiting athlete where we had to, call an ambulance and do all the stuff. And afterward, and it went fine. I mean, you don't think about it when you're in the moment, you're just in business mode and you're working. But afterwards, talking to my AD at the time, he came up and he goes, boy, that just went perfectly. And I was like, I know, isn't that awesome? We all were, you don't have to think about, where everybody is and who's going to do this for me. And I need help here. Everybody was in the place where they were supposed to be. And it just ran so smoothly and perfectly. And so, yeah, that was one of those times where like, I'm glad we go over this every game to just so everyone knows what to do. And so everything runs right in case that, and luckily that was only a broken bone. It was a bad one, but it wasn't a life-threatening, type situation, because you really want it to run smoothly on life-threatening type things, of course.
Oh, no, absolutely. Okay, you shared some great stuff. I mean, the whole spleen injury and the left shoulder pain. I'm going to remember that. I'm not coaching anymore, but I guess that's good to have in my toolbox. Okay, here's another one. You're a professional trainer, and so you're qualified to, deal with any situation. For a coach or an AD, let's say a para trainer professional that's covering an event, you see a kid and you go up to them, they're in obvious pain, and you can see, because it's very easy to see, the patella has, dislocated from its the way it's supposed to be aligned. Okay. Is there any appropriate action other than, hey, we got to call the trainer for that para to do to address that particular situation?
Well, if you have an athletic trainer on staff, of course, lean on them, call them first, because they're the ones with the liability insurance and the knowledge and the, know how to treat those injuries. So that would be my response. Call the athletic trainer first, keep the kid calm.
All right, there's one time I'll fully admit, this was actually my final year as an AD, and our trainer, I'd given her the weekend off to go to be in a wedding, and she never missed any events, never. Okay, she didn't even want
Thank
to
you
go.
for giving her the weekend
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I said, no, it's a one lacrosse game, stand alone. I'm going to be there. What could happen, right?
Murphy's Law.
So the goalie for the opposing team, scrambling around the net, he goes down. I'm over on the sideline, and he's yelling and screaming, and I go out there, and I can see through he had like, spandex tights on. I could see, here's the knee gap way over to the side. And I'm trying to calm him down. There was nobody else to get. And I mean, hey, you okay? Take a deep breath, try to relax. And I remembered 100 years ago when I was in high school, something like that happened in practice. And I remember our head football coach, classic head football coach of the 70s. He just kind of supported the thigh and the calf and just kind of, gently was moving, and boink, it popped right back in. So long story short, I did the same thing. It popped right back in, and we got him in the golf cart, took him over the sideline, put ice on him. His mom came down, and I just said, well, his kneecap popped out, it's back in. I suggest you take him to, your own urgent care and have him seen by a doctor. And on Monday, when our trainer comes back and she goes, well, how'd it go? And I'm kind of proud of myself. I go, this happened. And she just gets this horrified look on her face. Oh, no, you're not supposed to do that. And we talked about it, but she covered those same things, liability, and, you're not professional. And so anyway,
Well, the good news is patella's reduced really easy. So I'll I'll teach you off camera how to do that. I'll try to keep it professional while we're
All right.
talking.
All right. Okay. If you're listening, those courses are available for a fee through Cari Wood.
There
You
we
have her
go. Yeah.
email. All right. That was a new online
Never do
webinar.
it on your own.
Hey, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we've got a special bonus. I didn't realize this when Cari and I met and we talked and we set this up. I didn't realize we were going to have this, and it could very well be the most important segment that we do in Cari's interview. So we're going to do a couple more commercials, but stay with us. We've got more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Snap Raise for their support. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraising project and ended up with little, if any, return on investment? You need to stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Our coaches loved it, our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms, but if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com to get started. We'd like to thank Home Campus for their support. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day for things like scheduling, uploading scores and rosters, communicating with your stakeholders, communicating with your entire state. How about athletic eligibility and clearance forms? Everybody does that. Home Campus does all of these things and more, does it better, does it faster. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's it, homecampus.com. And we'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their scoreboards and their score tables in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest is Cari Wood, longtime athletic trainer in the state of Oregon at Redmond High School. And by the time you listen to this, she will have already been inducted into the National Athletic Trainers Hall of Fame. Cari, I already shared this with you, so you know where I'm going. For our listeners, as I was doing just a little bit of research prior to this interview, I came across a nugget that is going to be this next segment. I'm hoping that some of you listeners have already taken the NIAAA Leadership Training Course 628, Mental Health and Wellness for the Student Athlete. I took it several years ago, but I've had the opportunity to teach it. In fact, I taught it this last spring at our own state conference. And within that webinar, or excuse me, within that course, 628, there's just an incredible video. It's on YouTube. We're going to tell you how to get it. But I found out that Cari was the driving force in creating this particular video because of events that happened at her school. So I'm going to step back. Cari, can you kind of share the story about the video, which is called Your Life Matters, and I guess how it came together and what it means to you?
Yeah, it has a ton of meaning. Thank you for bringing it up. Hunter Holmes is who the video is dedicated to, and Hunter was a 3-sport athlete at Redmond High who unfortunately died of suicide. And great kid, a lot of the typical story that he, all the kids and everybody, he seemed fine. You never would know that anything was wrong with him because he painted that happy face on all the time. So after the fact, his parents approached me and they had started like a scholarship fund and are doing, which they still do, which is amazing, but they had some money and they wanted to donate it to the athletic training program. And kind of how they said it to me is we'd like you to use the money and buy a piece of equipment or something that all the athletes can use and that you can get use out of in your program. And so it's like, okay, well, let me think on that. And, it didn't feel right to me I couldn't come up with anything that felt like it would honor Hunter. Like, it just didn't feel right. Oh, you know, here's some compression boots that are, it didn't feel right. And so, I was teaching a health occupations class at the time, and we would watch a video that was a hospital made video that taught kids, because they were shadowing in the hospital, and it taught kids just to kind of have empathy for people in the hospital because they're all going through something. And so as I'm watching that one day, I was like, oh, we could make a video out of this with high school kids and sports, and the whole purpose would be to remind kids that everybody is going through something, even if they paint a happy face on all the time. There's always something going. Everybody has problems, and so we just need to be kind to everybody because you just don't know what they're going through. And so I brought this to Hunter's parents and said, this is something that I think, is this something that we could do? And they said, yes, we'll use the money to hire a professional video company. And so they did. And so we gathered all these kids from Redmond and came up with the script and videoed, filmed it and everything, and turned out just as, the word I hear all the time is powerful. Very, very powerful. And so we waited a little bit because we wanted to release it or post it in Suicide Prevention Month. And so I just put it out on my Facebook account, just like, oh, we've been working on this. We're so excited to show everybody. Well, all of a sudden it was shared and shared and shared and shared. And pretty soon it had like 3.5 million views and was just out there. And so Erica, Hunter's mom, and I were just like, oh, because she put it on hers as well. And we're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want this on my personal Facebook account. And so anyway, we ended up putting it on YouTube, and like you said, it's called Your Life Matters. But bottom line is what we thought would be a cool thing to do for Redmond High School, for our kids to see, and for our school district to be able to, watch and learn how to be kind and have empathy for your friends and your staff, everywhere from the custodians, teachers, coaches, kids, have empathy and be kind for our community. But it turned out to just expand and throughout the whole nation. And so we couldn't be happier that it has spread the word and has been impactful and been used in so many different venues. And it's just super exciting. And I didn't realize until just now when you told me that it's used in your athletic director training video or training course. And that's really, really cool.
It really is. And I'm going to use that word, powerful. It is so well done. And you mentioned the students in the video. It's just, just imagine a Hollywood movie style production. They're showing the high school, and here's the kids walking in, and they're having conversations. Hey, hi, how's it going? And then these captions appear for each of the students, what they're really thinking or what they may be going through that nobody else knows about. And it just continues through the end of the video. What do you think? Maybe 6 minutes or so?
It's just under 5, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's
something that,
worth it.
oh no, yeah. Showing it to your if you're a health teacher, showing it to your students, if you're a coach, showing it to your team. And again, the message is everybody is dealing with something, and that theme of being kind and being there and being available, it just really hits home. um you know Now that the video has gotten such acclaim, and it again, all those downloads, what What do you see as maybe the next step in the foundation that Hunter's parents are doing, or is that a fair question at this point?
Yeah, no, they've done a ton. Like I said, they give scholarships every year, and their scholarship are for seniors that are kind. It's not a, grade based, activity based scholarship like most of them are. It's who is kind, who reaches out to all people in their school, not just their group, who goes above and beyond to be kind and have empathy and help others. And so that's really cool. They do that now with both high schools, now that we have the other high school, but they have scholarships at both high schools. They've bought sideline tents for 2 different schools that have the suicide hotline and Hunter Homes logo and, information. So all of the athletes and people in the stands can see and get that information. They sponsored a app for the kids' Chromebooks at school that is a way they can reach out for help if needed. Because one thing that I think is important is that kids don't want to talk to us face to face about anything really anymore. They'd rather text. And so to ask them to tell us when they're hurting face to face is a difficult thing to ask. And so I prefer those opportunities for them to text or send a message on their computer to reach out for help, because I think they're way more comfortable and more apt to do that. So we have a Lifeline app on our Chromebooks now at the Redmond School District. But yeah, I was looking at our video the other day and thinking, oh, it'd be fun to update this, and do another one. I know our school district just released another short video that they did with mental health. But I don't know, it was, I got kind of thrown into being a mental health expert, which I absolutely am not. But because of that video, a lot of people called and want me to, do speaking engagements and things like that. And so, I just really had to educate myself and learn as much as I could and keep learning. And because I don't want to turn anybody down to, speak about mental health and how we can help kids. So I think it's been successful, I hope.
Oh, no, again, I strongly encourage you, if you're a listener, go to YouTube, type in Your Life Matters. You can add Hunter Holmes just in case there's a similar title out there. But it's something that you're going to want to add to your resources for what you're doing as a leader, as a coach, as an AD, as an athletic trainer. Um, Cari, thanks so much for sharing that, and thanks so much for coming on the podcast. But we're not done yet. We always wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you're not an AD, but you certainly know your way around the world of athletics. So we're going to take our final break. We're going to hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 tools in their toolbox. So let's take that final break. When we return, we're going to see what Cari Wood puts in her new athletic director toolbox. We'd like to say thank you to Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic directors already get feedback, but typically it's from a small group that just wants to complain about everything. Athletic Surveys is going to connect you to that group, but it's also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And the information that comes back from this survey, because it comes from coaches, student athletes, and parents, the information is incredibly valuable, especially when you're meeting with that frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with somebody I'm going to call a new friend of the show, Cari Wood, longtime athletic trainer in the state of Oregon and a recent inductee into the National Athletic Trainers Hall of Fame. Incredible background in sports. You just heard about her contributions to the Your Life Matters video. But right now, I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director or maybe even a new athletic trainer on the very first job, but I'm only going to let her put 3 items in the toolbox. So, Cari, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Well, of course, the first thing I'm going to say is you need to have an athletic trainer by your side. So that's a huge, huge tool to put in your toolbox. Not only are we good for loaning you coolers on the weekends for your barbecues, or good things full of ice, good coolers full of ice, but we're also, use this as a resource for, I've had ADs ask me about coaches, because we're at practices, we're watching coaches coach, and I don't want to scare any coaches off or make them think that we're tattling, but I think that we have a good feel of how coaches treat kids and how they're doing. And I've been fortunate that I've worked with a lot of really, really good coaches. So use us in that way, also we good on interview committees, again, we work with a lot of coaches and parents. And so we kind of know what to look for, good qualities, but we can help you a lot, not just be your friend out on the island, but to, and support you, but beyond, above and beyond being a good athletic trainer. So athletic trainer is my first thing. Second thing, you need to have candy and snacks. I know that I have a big drawer in my office that I keep full of snacks and candy for the kids that come by, and what I like to call, kids when they're hungry after school, but also for what I call my Panther grandkids, which is because I've been here 30 years, a lot of my former athletes are back teaching or coming to games, and they have kids now. And so they're my little Panther grandkids. And so that's how I've enticed them to be my friend, as I bring them in and give them candy. So candy and snacks for you, for your athletes, for your students, and for whoever comes by. And then the last thing could be for ADs and athletic trainers is a couple personality traits that I think are super important. One, flexibility. We're always changing. From an athletic trainer, we're always going to be the last to know about changes, and don't take it personal. People just forget to add us to the list when there's game changes or practice changes. But learn to be flexible, because there's always something changing. And then to have a sense of humor. If you can't laugh at kids and things they do and things that we do, and just have a good time, then you're not going to survive in the secondary school athletic setting for sure. So have a sense of humor and have some flexibility. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Oh boy, you probably saw me scribbling those down. I love them all. I love the way you led right away with that athletic trainer.
Of course.
Um, but also the other ones, I always had that candy dish on my desk, and kids would walk by the office, and just a way to connect with them.
Mhm.
The flexibility, of course, and the humor. We have a job it's a fun job. There's some challenges, but boy, you got to enjoy it. Very, very great ideas for that toolbox.
If I was starting out today, I would have kept a book of all the funny things that kids say, or, everybody says that you could write a book of all the funny things that kids have said over the years. And I wish I would have wrote them all down.
Well, we can talk about that off camera. Speaking of books, I tell people writing a book is so easy, even I can do it, and I've done it four times. I've helped 3 other people write their book, so I've been involved in 7 books. So we're going to talk about that.
Gosh, wow.
Cari, can't tell you how much I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast, sharing your story, sharing your best practices. One more time, we know it's not LinkedIn, but if one of our listeners wants to reach out and connect with you and pick your brain, and listeners, you have a tremendous resource here. What's the best way they can get a hold of Cari Wood?
Well, hopefully my LinkedIn will be up and running soon, again. But email's probably best, carrie.wood@redmondschools.org. And thank you so much, Jake, for letting me come on. I appreciate that. It's been fun visiting with you.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to be coming out to Oregon. We always do every summer. So if I can convince my wife to take a side trip to Redmond, I might give you a holler. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Um, for our listeners, we want to thank you for tuning in and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day, sharing stories and best practices. So we hope you come back for another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.